Tuesday, May 16th. I'm Amy Corr, and I'm here with Kevin Van Eck, and here we are at the Goose Island office. So we have a really great topic today to talk about. Make sure you've got a warm cup of coffee, maybe a tea, a smoothie, lemon water, whatever sounds great to you. But let's jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin. And not so fast. Before Kevin can jump in here, I want to do our intro this morning because I want to talk about what's happening in real estate as it relates to real time, things moving very quickly, but more specifically, Kevin was just recently on a great podcast. It was the Keeping It Real podcast. If you check it out, we've actually got a link to it in this email. And he had a great conversation. I know I'm totally embarrassing him right now. He was hoping nobody would see this.
Yes,
but
under the radar.
He spoke to DJ Paris, and one of the things that you really spoke to him about in your conversation was what's going on with innovation and AI in real estate.
Right.
So we thought today, I kind of thought today it would be really interesting for us to talk a little bit with everyone about it, because I think it's something we all need to be thinking about as it relates to our business. AI is happening. We've got things like ChatGPT, right?
Yep.
Lots of things that are happening, and we want to make sure you're aware of them, but also thinking about what can you be doing to make sure that you are continuing to grow your business as AI becomes something that's coming into the real estate space.
That's right. Okay, so I need to reference, now that we talked about the podcast, also that Amy in previous weeks has her own episode of Keeping It Real podcast with DJ Paris out, and it was excellent. So make sure you listen to hers, and I guess if you want, you can listen to mine too.
It was good.
But the idea is that, like Amy was talking about, it's impossible to have a conversation these days without AI coming up in some way, and that happened on that podcast. And so DJ and I talked about it. So we wanted to share a little bit about it, about AI today, because there's so much noise out there.
Yeah.
There are headlines, you're hearing it on podcasts, you're being served up ads with how 22-year-olds are using AI to make $200,000 a year on Instagram. Like, it's crazy, right? So we have to sort through the noise to understand a couple of things. The first is how AI isn't something to be afraid of, at least in the short term. Mm-hmm. And second of all, how we can utilize AI to actually benefit us, our efficiency, our clients, the experiences we provide, and all of that. And so with AI, there's a couple of different things to look for. Number one, it's really easy to have shiny object syndrome. And if you were in my Chrome browser, you would see that I have, 30 different tools that are bookmarked there that I've tried and used. And for me, I'm doing it because I want to understand, okay, how can we use this as real estate agents and professionals to enhance what we already do? The fear, though, that it comes from when we start looking at shiny object syndrome is that we might have some fear that we are going to be replaced. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So don't have the fear. Think through what it can do for you. And that first piece that I already mentioned is efficiency. Mm-hmm. It can make you more efficient. So take a look at some of the tools like ChatGPT, at Jasper, at some of the other tools that can maybe manage your email for you with caution. Because the keynote here is that AI is still glitchy. It's not perfect. It's serving up incorrect information, so it's not always great. But the first use case I would say is efficiency. What can you do to reduce the amount of time you spend doing repetitive actions that ChatGPT and other tools can replace? And we just talked about one recently. We create a lot of slides for training and coaching.
Yep.
And so there's a tool out there, there's a few of them, there's 2 or 3 that I think are really good that you can upload an outline for a class. And this is something neat, an outline for your buyer or seller process. And it will create slides, a slide deck. And you can create it so it's branded. So there's a lot of tools out there that can help reduce the amount of time you spend doing tedious things, or at least give you a head start. Like I said, if it's glitchy, you got to check these things out, make sure it's accurate, double check what it's spitting out. And make sure you're giving it good instructions too. So that's number one, would be the efficiency piece. Number 2, I think, is coming up with unique content. So there's a lot of talk around whether it's social, whether it's for copy for marketing pieces, flyers, brochures, for listing copy. Yep. This is something that if you're feeling writer's block, it can give you a good start on what you should write or could write. And we did a couple things where we wrote an entire branding book for agents. We did a lot of even long products, I guess, long pieces of collateral where it wrote for us. one of our courses, Getting What You're Worth, using ChatGPT and a couple of other tools to rewrite that and fine-tune it.
Yep.
And then the third, I think, is in terms of marketing when it comes to quickly getting past not only the writer's block, but the creativity block. So if you're looking for topics or good social media or blog topics to be able to write about, it's really good to be able to serve up some ideas. Again, it's not going to be the end-all be-all. It's not going to do the entire thing for you, but it's a good head start to make sure that, okay, if you can't come up with anything new or unique, it will pull some things up. Here's one caveat, though, and Brian Boero from 1000 Watts said this, which is these tools are pulling from the information that's already out there.
Right.
So when we say creative or unique, it may not be as creative or unique as you think because it's using other sources to come up with its answer. So sometimes, and this is what Brian said in a recent blog on 1000 Watt, is that sometimes ChatGPT and these other tools are a way to show what not to do. Change it up because these things are being used frequently. It's sort of like if you walk into a boutique and they say it's their best seller.
Yeah.
Do you want to wear the same thing that everybody else is wearing because it's a bestseller? Maybe you go for something that's not a bestseller. So in this case, just be careful with that. And I think at the end of the day, AI is not going away. We don't know where it's going. It's not replacing us currently. This came about so quickly. None of us predicted. In the last a year ago, did any of you hear about ChatGPT? AI was a word, but it wasn't functional for most of us.
Yeah.
And so we can't predict. Even the founders of some of these companies have no idea where it's going. But for us, it's important to learn how to use it because it's not going away. It's only going to increase and further infiltrate our jobs, our lives. And so take the time to make sure to learn how to use AI. There are resources out there. Start small. You don't have to be an expert at everything or have 25 different tools you're using like I'm trying. Focus on one that's really going to create some efficiency for you in specific areas like we talked about, whether it's creativity, whether it's for efficiency, managing the process, etc. But that would be my encouragement is see what's out there, choose one, like a ChatGPT, for instance, and start using it. Learn how to do it because in the past, if we haven't adapted like to social media and some other tools, we find ourselves way behind.
Yeah. And I think don't be afraid of it, just being comfortable sort of exploring, what it is. And to your point, Kevin, how it can help you with your business. I think for some of us, it's almost we're afraid of it. But to your point, it's not going away. Like ChatGPT, like somebody probably on here, it might be the first time that you heard about that. Start exploring it, but also recognize that there are still a lot of ways for us to stay relevant as real estate agents, right? If we looked at 20 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, when we looked at selling real estate and working with clients, we still really had control of the inventory, meaning we still were the people that, buyers and sellers would have to contact in order to say, hey, we're thinking about buying, what homes are available, or, a seller really needed to come to us to create that opportunity of getting them in front of buyers. Technology changed that over the last 15 years, and we've had to adapt. So this is just a way of us continuing to be mindful that this is another new wave of adjustment that's happening in our industry. So what we really want you to be thinking about today are what are some of the things that you can be focusing on so that you are staying relevant. And the first thing I will say is get comfortable researching these different methods of AI that are kind of coming into the real estate space. Don't be afraid of them, but just understand them enough so that you can then, double down on your value prop and understanding how those will help you create a better experience with your buyers and sellers. So the first thing I want to say is education. Always educating ourselves. And one of the things that I thought about, as we were thinking about AI, Ninja. To me, when I took Ninja over 10 years ago, it was the biggest game changer for me at how I looked at real estate. It helped me really understand the relationship drives everything. And let's face it, as much technology that comes into play here in real estate, the relationship is what we really have control over. Because you're going to have clients who are really interested in Technology, you still probably have a lot of clients who are afraid of technology, right? So that's where you come into play. Knowing your clients, deepening the relationship. And what I also love about Ninja is it gives you some really great systems and processes for your clients. Because again, this is a complicated transaction. And so the better you are at making it easier for them, the more valuable you're going to be regardless of the technology. So taking a look at Ninja, a quick plug, we are having it in Chicago here in September,
yes.
But that's a great thing. So think about education and what you're doing to make sure that you're doing the best to deepen those relationships with your clients.
Yeah, Ninja's been around a long time, and it's not the newest innovation out there, but it's funny, we say relationships are the core of real estate, and Ninja really presses that. And it's the best thing, like you said, it's the best, truly the best coaching, training program, sales program that I've ever been through.
Yeah, and it teaches the human element, because as much as technology is coming into play, it's the emotional aspect that, I think we really are great at when it comes to our clients as they're going through probably one of the largest, most stressful transactions in their life, right?
That's right.
The second thing I think that's so critical is always knowing what's going on in your market. I was just reading the newspaper this morning, not really the newspaper, I was online, and I saw a headline about foreclosures. And as I read the article, it actually started talking about the fact that in the United States, so many people have so much equity in their homes that foreclosures will likely not be an issue, even if we see a recession coming in. What I want to point out, though, is that the article header was foreclosures. And if I hadn't read the detail, like many other consumers out there, there are suddenly headlines in the universe about foreclosures, recession, lots of different things that are out there that make it really confusing. So again, the value we bring to the table is having an understanding of what's happening kind of on the national scale, but even more importantly, what's happening in your neighborhood, house to house, block to block, right?
Yeah.
That is where, again, technology does not have that inside track, and you do. You've been inside of these houses. A computer hasn't yet, hopefully. But, the idea is you are really the nuance of the hyper-local. So making sure that you really understand the market and are able to articulate it to your clients. Because again, that is where you stay relevant. And then the last piece to me, Kevin, that I think is so important is negotiation. That is something that we do through the entire process, from the very first time we talk with a client and we negotiate with them to even work with us, right? But then we negotiate the whole way through, making sure that we get them either a great price under contract as a buyer or a seller. Plus, we negotiate all the nuances when emotion comes into play, when other parties, maybe throw us, a scenario that we aren't prepared for. We're the ones that skillfully navigate and negotiate our way to the finish line with our clients. So, negotiations is something that we can be brushing up on and making sure that we're doing it extraordinarily well. Chris Voss is my favorite, Never Split the Difference, if you haven't read that book. But making sure, are you super skilled in negotiating? Are there things that you can be doing to make sure that you add even greater value when it comes to working with your buyers and sellers in this real-time market? So in my mind, those are the ways that we stay relevant regardless of a lot of the automation that's going on out there.
I think those are great ones. And they all revolve around, this is a people business, right? And AI or technology can't detect how you're feeling. It can't detect what your relationship is with the other parties involved in a transaction. So that's where we come in, being able to level set and navigate and set expectations based on the individual person.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and not to create fear when you say that robots are not in our homes yet. Roomba has been around for a long time.
True.
And Roomba, I have a Roomba, just so you know. So I'm saying this, don't go throw it out the window, but it does map out your entire home, and it does send it back, and so they've been collecting home data for a long period of time.
Well, we had a Roomba for like 1 week in our house, and it kept, boom, banging into one corner. So maybe mine was a techie reject, but that Roomba was definitely having problems figuring out my floor plan.
Right, you really tricked it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Cool. So I think one of the things, like we said, don't be fearful. We still control a large part of our value as agents. We need to enhance that, like Amy's saying, level up there. And when Amy talks about know your local market, one of the coolest things, I've been doing this, which is if you get a complicated article. So we talk often about a blog called Calculated Risk Blog. if you copy and paste the text from that article and those blogs that come out, and you put it into, let's say, GPT, you put it in and ask it to summarize and create bullet points, it will, and it does it pretty effectively. So now you have the short paragraph with bullet points versus having to determine and interpret everything that's in a longer blog post or article, and then you can communicate that and use it as content, whether it's social or in conversation with your people.
I love it. It's like real-time Cliff Notes. I'm in.
That's right. It works. I'm doing it. It works really well. So on that note, there have been a lot of changes over time. This one's happening quickly, but I know for some of you that are newer in the industry, you roll your eyes when we talk about the MLS being a book and it went to the internet, but that changed. We all survived. Then it went to Zillow and the Redfins and the other syndicators that made everything available, and all the data that is now available to your clients. That's out there. We're still here. And then there's the open doors and the purple bricks and all the other disruptors that came in and tried to eliminate the agent already. We can't predict the future. It hasn't happened yet, but the one way you can prevent that from happening is by doing what Amy talked about, which is leveling up what we do control.
That's right. So work on staying relevant, fill up that cup of coffee, because I know that you just drank yours down listening to us on this amazing topic. We'll see you next Tuesday, but until then, remember, you got this.